Hey everybody, welcome to Tales Off the Holotables. This is the first one of 2025, so Happy New Year. We're actually doing this at 10 a.m. On New Year's Day. A quick note before I introduce my guest. Late last year, we kind of decided to section off Tales Off the Holotables into two distinct properties. The first one is this. This is Tales Off the Holotables proper. This is where I talk to the creators that play the game and support the game and create content for the game. But then also having a Tales Off the Holotables Players Edition, which will be distinct and separate in its own right. If you're interested in being a part of that, I will leave a Google form in the description of the video and fill it out, and I'll get back to you at some point. With that said, I have a very special guest with me today. I don't watch a lot of content. I don't have time to sit down at my computer. This is a person that I do anytime he's streaming at a time that I can sit down and watch. I just like to half hour hang out in his Twitch. I've got Kebelac here, who I hope, because I forgot to ask you. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, it's Kebelac.
Oh, love it. Excellent. So I've got Kebelac here and my favorite, Terrence, his puppers in the background. So Kebelac, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. New year, going for a good one. So happy to start it off this way.
Awesome. So what I wanted to kind of get into here is, again, I don't watch a lot. And what I've been trying to do lately is hop onto Twitch and see new faces and meet new people and just chat in their chats and hang out. And your Twitch account is one that I'm constantly coming back to, just because you're such a positive person. Like, you have this great energy to you. And I really love that. And this is really just my plug of you for anyone who's watching. I know that there's a lot of people in the 10 million, the 11 million, the 12 million range who maybe aren't going to learn something new watching you play. But it's just a fun time. You know, it's fun. You're always just have like this great attitude, and I love hanging out in that way. But we're going to get a little bit of an interview in here, which I rarely do. Tell me a little bit more about your account. What's your GP right now?
I'm at 3.1 million GP, so
Relatively new.
relatively new. I started about 6 months ago.
Okay.
I had just gotten Terrence, my puppy, and I was looking for like something to do because I couldn't play my Switch outside when I was hanging out with him, and I couldn't play my 3DS outside when I was hanging out with him, so I had to find something on my phone to do, and I found Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
How does that translate to creating content? Because I imagine a game, you're like, oh, I want to do this while I'm outside, while I'm spending time with my puppy. You're not creating content outside, obviously. You're like, is that a separate journey? Did that just kind of come in hand?
So I've kind of wanted to be a content creator for a long time.
Okay.
That's been I've had a different Twitch account where I did a little bit of D&D stuff, but nothing major. Just a game with friends, and we streamed it. But then I kind of just was looking at it, and that was kind of like a group account with my brothers, and I wanted to just launch myself.
Okay.
And so I had my accounts already from being, a viewer on a bunch of other channels, and so I just started streaming one day, and it went very poorly. No one was watching, nothing was happening. I didn't really know what I was doing, and it just fizzled out. And then I tried again later, and it didn't work. And I tried again later, and it didn't work. And then, skip back up to a couple months ago, where I was streaming a couple of different games, trying to find my niche. Terrence had just gotten to the point where I could be inside and hanging out with him and not worrying about as much of the uh, disruptive behaviors that can uh, puppies can have, and I I was playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I was streaming different games, and then one day I was literally just like, I'm not getting any traction with the game that I'm playing, but I've got one of my officers in chat from Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes who is helping support me, and uh, it was like, "Do you want to see me play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes?" And they were like, "Yeah." So I quick changed what I was doing on midstream and started playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and people started popping in, and it was just like, "Wow," like I guess this might be my new thing.
It's an interesting dynamic because I started doing videos and Twitch probably about a year ago, so not too much before you were doing it. I was already a part of the community doing text based stuff, and I was very nervous to start creating myself, kind of for the same reason. Like, all right, I'm going to stream my GAC and nobody's going to show up. What do I do if nobody's here? And one piece of advice that I don't think I'm giving you because you've already kind of figured this out, but to anybody that does want to kind of become a creator in some sense, and I've had this question asked to me before, don't even look at your viewer count at first and just talk like people are there. Because people do pop in, and if you're just sitting at your computer doing things, they're gonna leave. Just treat it like you have an audience, whether or not there is actually an audience. But going back to you, I think the first time I popped in was maybe about a month and a half ago, and then the holidays came up, and I got really busy, and then I popped in a few days ago. Your channel is starting to get a lot of growth. Like, I was surprised there was a
Yeah.
bunch of new people in there. There was a nice active chat. We got to have fun. So I was very, very, very happy to see that for you. That was a very positive beacon for me to kind of see and appreciate. So 3.1 million. You've been playing for about 6 months. We talked about this 2 days ago. The game for you is very different than the game is for me. Uh,
Oh yeah.
I'm at 12.5 million. There's very little for me to farm. It's always just the new thing. There are very few Lightspeed bundles that matter to me. When we talk about like economics or how spending feels, I'm unaffected. What are your thoughts on this new? I guess it's not new for you. It's always been this way. Um, on the dynamic of the game with like Lightspeed bundles constantly launching, do you feel drowned in that, or do you feel like, all right, this is helping me catch up, or what's your process
So
there?
it's like a double-edged sword. It's really awesome to be able to be like, okay, my first Lightspeed bundle was I got two at the same time, Shadows of the Empire and Chewbacca bundle.
Okay.
And it just was like, this has launched me so far ahead of where I was. It was like I had just gotten into relics, and all of a sudden now, I can see on my screen a bunch of relics,
Yeah.
and uh, it was exciting. And then I realized, wait a minute, my mods aren't great. I'm still struggling to like actually accomplish things with these relics
Yeah.
because my account wasn't really ready for them. But it was a lot of fun, but at the same time, it was that double-edged sword of uh, this is gonna be a little bit messy.
Yes.
Um, but it I love that they're releasing those Lightspeed bundles. It is kind of a pain on my wallet. Uh, but if for me, it is a big catch-up mechanic
Yeah.
of I want to be relevant in this community, and yes, I kind of have a stick as the new guy, kind of, but I want to be able to give good advice
Mm-hmm.
to the people that come to me for advice, because right now it's like, people are like, "Hey, can I get a roster review?" And it's just like I feel like I have to be like, I'm 3.1 GP, 3.1 million GP. This is my advice, but I may be completely wrong.
Yeah.
Please do your homework as I'm giving you this advice. And they're generally like, any advice is appreciated. This community has been so amazing, honestly. Just like, people are just so welcoming, and sorry, I have a bit of ADHD, so I jump
That's
all over
okay.
the place.
So do
But
I. You go on my streams and I'm here, there, looking backwards, so I get it.
yeah, so it's just, it's been really cool getting a couple more Lightspeed bundles. I got to the point where it was just like, I can't really get any more with, my budget and everything, but it was really cool. Um, I got the BB-8 bundle and the Finalizer bundle, so I was super close to SLKR, and now I'm unlocking them on stream, and it's a really fun time because, my mods aren't great, but luckily the uh, the Galactic Legend process changed, and now I can do
You,
as many retries as I need
you
to,
just brute force
because
it. Yeah.
I do just brute force it. Um,
It was
I
fun
just
to like watch you in the first couple of tiers because I popped in. You were doing, I think, the second or third tier, and I was kind of goading you into doing the voices of all of the things, and you were a great sport about that. But for me, and this goes back to giving people advice too, I popped on my screen to start doing it to kind of give you a strategy and help you, but all of my mods are 6A or
yep.
6E. They're great. I have every Zeta, so like after a while I stopped and realized like, wait, this is easy for me because I have all these other background tools. But with those roster reviews, it's the same way. People come to me all the time, and as much as I can give them a path, I don't know what the game looks like at that point. The game is so fundamentally different from when I started that while you might not feel like you're in a position just yet to give confident advice, when you start to feel that, you're going to be in a much better position to give more tailored advice than I am. For that reason, because you know what the game looks like. Whereas, like, totally different gameplay for me. 2017, so I think that's 8 years, literally to the day, 8 years ago.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. I luckily most of my roster reviews have either been, I can actually help this person because they are just starting out as well,
Mm-hmm.
or this person is just a big account and I can just marvel at it and be like, "Hey, you have an awesome account. Have fun with what you're doing. I can't really help, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to look around and you know
See what's
laud
funny.
your many accomplishments, and like kind of look and see what I'm going to be someday, hopefully."
At some point, and it'll be quicker for
Yeah.
you too with everything. I
Yep.
think I found sometimes people will ask for roster reviews knowing full well that they don't need any help at all. They want you to marvel at their account, and you can just, and I do it. I go, I don't know what you, I have everything, I don't know what you want me to say to you. Go for the new shiny, because that's the only shiny that's available to you. It's great, 10/10, I don't know. But I think the big thing is, don't be afraid to say that you don't know. Don't be afraid to say, "Hey, I don't have the answer to that," and that's fine because, like you said, this community is surprisingly so supportive, which is I think rare in the gaming space. And there will be
Yeah.
people that'll pop in and say, "Hey, I got you. I'll help you out. I love chatting with you. Like, let me get you this thing, or let me do it on my account and give you some advice."
Mhm.
I see some people in your chats that are in my chats, that are in Scribe's chats, that are in Bit, like in everybody's chats, because they want to communicate and they want to create those connections, and that's kind of what this is about as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I was super excited when you asked me to do this. This is my first major collab, and it's really been there. There's been some nervous energy.
Yeah,
I deal with a lot of anxiety, but it's been super exciting, and I'm very thankful that you decided to reach out to me. And I'm very happy to kind of try to share my perspective, and you know, I love the idea of like putting a face to the other side of the screen, because
yes,
so often, like I've even seen in my chat where like I'll go up against a GAC opponent and they'll have, maybe a wonky roster, and because I'm still down in Carbonate 4, or sorry, 3 I now. I'm in Carbonate 3 now. Uh you know, they'll have just like one relic and a bunch of other stuff, or they'll have a ton of relics, but then everything else just like completely falls off.
hmm
And they're just, some people are just like, oh, this is a bad roster. You can do this. And it's just like, I know you're saying this to encourage me,
yeah,
but also this is another person that, has worked on this roster, and maybe they just don't have a little direction that they need. But they're, they might actually just be there for the passion projects
yeah.
aspect. And I don't want to like sit there and say your roster is bad. I want to say, it could be improved in these
Yes.
ways, but ultimately you have to do what's best for you playing this game,
I
because it
think
is a game.
I think that that is something that a lot of people do forget, and a bunch of people come to me as the efficiency guy. Egnards efficient. He knows the math. He figures it out. Blah blah blah. But that passion project thing is a huge deal, and I do try to keep that in mind. And at my level, the amount of resources it takes to do a passion project are much higher, but you have more capability to do that without it affecting your roster as an overall. Whereas at your level, you might have players that say, you know what, I just want Gungans. I don't think they're viable for me. I don't think it's smart to get them, but I am a big fan of Phantom Menace for whatever reason. And I'm going in for them, and it might lose me some GACs, but I'm here to collect characters, not to be the most efficient player. And I do think that that is really important for other people to remember, is that we are, I don't play GAC competitively. I don't care. You may play GAC more competitively. You need the resources more than I do. You can't afford to not care about it. I can.
Right.
Some people loved. I just had a guy leave my guild because he loves territory wars, and we just don't care about territory wars. And as much as I hated to lose him, it was, I get it. You need to do what's right for you. You need to do what's right for your roster. You need to do what's right for you as a player and, as a person as well. And that is kind of, going back to my original point, your original point, is really the purpose of this, is to remind people, that everybody here is a person. And also, I just like talking to interesting people. And if I can do that in some way in the comfort of my own house, I'm going to try to find a way to do that.
Yeah. Um. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, no,
You
go,
go
go,
ahead.
go. I'm the master of this, so you please. And by master, I don't mean on top. I mean I'm in control. So I want to give you the space to talk.
Yeah, I just wanted to reemphasize it is a game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it it has a lot of strategy and efficiency to it that you can make happen,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately it's about your enjoyment on the game. And you know, I'm in this very new honeymoon phase. Everything seems like a lot of fun. I love the Star Wars universe. Um, Probably more than I like even any of the individual content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I ran a Star Wars 5e game for like a D&D style game and for some friends, and I love this universe, and it's super honeymoon for me right now. Everything is so much fun. Uh, I do get a little frustrated with some of the time gates and uh, like having to kind of it started to feel kind of like a Dark Souls run
Mm-hmm.
where the way I like to describe that game is banging your head against the wall in the most pleasurable way, repeatedly.
So you're a
So
Souls fan then?
I do like my Souls games.
Okay. See, it's so funny. I've said this before to people. I hate Souls games. I hate them so much. I am somebody who, if Souls games came out when I was 12, I think I would have really liked them. And not because I think they're immature, but because at 12 I had a lot of time.
Yeah.
And at 16, I had a lot of time. And, at 21, I had a lot of time. I'm now 37. I don't have a lot of time. And I don't get the enjoyment, for me personally, of hitting my head against the wall for 2 hours when I just want to play through a game and enjoy it. And I do understand that people like you and really tons of people love these games. But there, it's the same thing as like players in this game. It goes back to that everybody as a gamer, we're all different. We all appreciate different styles of games.
Yeah, and I think it's those differences that actually make it like a stronger overall. Like everyone has to push to make their game better because the players want to have the best gaming experience, and you know, uh,
Now, have you
I
played the
think
newer ones? Not the newer Souls games, but have you? I mean, because they're Souls like, have you played like Survivor and Fallen Order?
I have played Fallen Order, and
Okay.
I've started playing Survivor on stream a little bit.
Okay.
Um, so it's been slow going because I kind of only do it once a week, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
also been like the holiday season, and I got injured and sick, and it it's been kind of a shit show over on my channel for a little bit because of those things. And but I was starting to play it, and I just got off of Coruscant.
Okay.
Um, but I love those games. I love a narrative. I love the Star Wars universe. I want to know more about it. I want to put my own input in, but I'm not really in a position to like influence the writers or anything. But
Mm-hmm.
that's why I love my Star Wars 5e game.
Is you can do it.
I
Yeah.
get to be in charge of what happens in the Star Wars universe. If I want to have a Disney Hercules crossover, I can have a Disney Hercules crossover. Uh, you
I've
know,
I've told this before to a few people. I don't think I've ever said it in stream. I'm not against D&D. I just it wasn't big when I was growing up in my area. I tried playing it one time. Friends and we were probably about 22, and I am a big nerd. It just wasn't a big thing. Friends and I decided to try it, and one of us was like a storyteller, so a dungeon master, and we spent like 3 hours setting up this campaign on our end, setting up character sheets and going back and forth. And I convinced our dungeon master that I wanted to be a Muppet, so like a Jim Henson's Muppet. And we fought for like hours on this. Like, I can be a Muppet. No, you can't be a Muppet. This doesn't make sense. We finally agreed that I could be a Muppet as long as I could only speak in Muppetese. And the caveat to that was that I agreed as long as somewhere in the campaign speaking Muppetese would come up. right? It couldn't just be a stupid thing. It had to be something that would be important at some point. So I was very excited for this campaign. I was a chaotic Muppet cleric, chaotic neutral Muppet cleric. We're sitting on the porch 3 or 4 hours into like building these characters. We're in town, we're buying our crap, and one of my party mates, who I don't remember his character, a rogue, something like that, he decided to steal from one of the town guards. Obviously, he's a level 1. He lost the roll. We were attacked. We were slaughtered. And that is the extent of my experience with D&D, was 3 hours of setting up and then 5 minutes ruined by somebody saying, you know what, let's just do this. But I would try again. I just haven't had the time.
Yeah, D&D can go basically one of two ways. Either you have a situation where you have that 3 hour setup and then everything gets derailed within 5 minutes, or you have my current game has been running for over 20 episodes of 4 hours each time, and we're still going strong. So
And is that D&D proper, or is that within your Star Wars campaign?
that's within my Star Wars
Okay.
campaign. So I have run regular D&D as well. That's what I started with, and the first session we did this session, and then we went to be like, okay, let's schedule the next one. And the guy that was being the dungeon master was just like, I don't think I can do this. And it was just like, wait, what?
We
We
just
all
had a
had a
great
good
session.
time.
Yeah.
And, you know, life happens. I get that. It was unfortunate. But then it was just kind of like, okay, who among us left is a good storyteller? And
Yeah.
it was like, oh boy, I guess it's me. So I had to learn on the fly how to do everything in D&D, because a lot of times players don't really know what they're doing. They just kind of say they're going to do stuff, and then you have to be like, okay, this is how.
Yeah.
Um,
And you have to just that's actually what I really love about D&D, even though I haven't been able to really play, is when I was growing up, massive multiplayer games were just becoming a thing. And my brother would tell me about like EverQuest, and he would explain the game as like, you can do anything. You know, you could hide in the trees in the forest, and you could steal things from people. Anything you could dream of, you could do. Which is not the case in massive multiplayer games at all. It's similar. It's a great idea. I've played a lot of them. But that's what D&D is. If you have a great dungeon master, is being able to say, all right, I'm going to make up something random. I'm going to think outside the box to solve this weird solution, this weird puzzle. And you as the dungeon master just have to figure out how to make it work. Like what the save is, what the condition is, like how to make it fair. And just on the fly deal with a bunch of assholes who are trying to screw up your campaign at every turn.
yeah, I can plan as much as I want, but it is not going to go that way.
Yeah.
I know that about my players. I, I, I just have like a couple paragraphs of notes of like, this is the direction,
hmm
and then, sorry, Terrence is getting a little antsy.
That's okay. I
Uh,
know. I want to pause you for a second because we talked about this before. If you need to take a minute, that's fine. We'll do some magic of editing stuff, and we'll make it all seem semi-perfect. That's up to you.
uh, let's see. He's such a good boy, but he needs to speak.
This is why, and
um,
I say, I pop onto your streams, and as much as you're a positive energy, every time I pop in, it's Terrence. Where is he? Show him to me.
yeah. I do have my brother on standby. I can have him take care of Terrence for a little bit.
Yeah, whatever you want to do is fine with
All
you.
right.
Fine with me.
Let me get that set up, and I will be right back.
Perfect. And it looks like
All
we're
right, I'm
back.
ready.
All right. We're gonna do a jump cut, and it's gonna look well, it won't look magical because I'm not good at that stuff. But we'll pretend, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about D&D and preparing in campaigns and you kind of having to put in all of that legwork and knowing
Yeah.
your
So
players.
so I prepare for my campaigns. Uh, just take like mostly I just figure out what battle is probably going to happen, and then I put together all the assets on Roll20 because that's what we use.
Hmm.
And then I have a couple lines of notes of like this is the direction I want to take, and then I just let my players like I can nudge them along a little bit with NPCs,
Hmm.
but mostly I let them figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's more exciting that way because it becomes like a collaborative storytelling experience rather than I'm telling my story and you have to follow it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And you
so
so you said you put this on Roll20, so do you play this virtually with your friends?
yes,
Yeah. So we have a guy in our community. I'll give you his information later. C Squared, who's big on that kind of stuff. You might want to link up with him, and because he loves this stuff. And he might want to either get involved or have you get involved with his stuff and whatever else. But I know he has been setting up things with Twitch and D&D. I don't know if he's played it in a sci-fi setting, but it just was a thought that kind of came to my mind.
yeah. Um, it the D&D community is another really cool community. Honestly, that was where I got some traction. With the one of the times that when I was trying to do content creation, and um, it didn't end up going super well that time, but it was a little bit better than a lot of the other times. There's a lot of really cool people in the D&D community, so it's really fun to reach out and kind of just you know uh, talk to different people from different walks of life, and we have this thing in common, and we can you know uh,
We can
we have this thing
explore
in
it, right?
common. We can explore that, and we can go out into further life, and
That's one of
um
the cool things. I live right by Manhattan, and my wife and I will go into Manhattan maybe once every few months. And I'll go to like a Broadway show, and I'll have a few drinks and get just a little bit tipsy, and we'll be walking down the streets, and I'll just have these like moments where I'm watching somebody else walk down the street, and in my head, it blows my mind. Like, this is a person that has a life. Like, they're not an NPC in my story. They have their own life. They're going back to their own house. They're going to call people up on their own phone. They're going to go to work at their own job. Like, they're not just people around me. Like, they are living their own life. And for me, that is one of the most mind-blowing thoughts that I can think of. And that is part of when we're talking about like meeting people around the world. Like, these are people that 30 years ago you would have no opportunity to communicate with ever. They're
mhm.
there, you're here, there's no bridge. And now we live in a world where there is that bridge between us, and you can meet people who maybe you're connected with really, really well that you never would have met in a non-connected world.
Yeah. Even in my community, like uh, most of the people I know are from my immediate area,
Mm-hmm.
but I've got friends that I've met through D&D that live over in Washington, and I live in Michigan, so that's like I would never have met these people if it wasn't for this like new ability to speak over the internet. Uh, and I've got people that they live in like Germany or the Netherlands, and I actually made a joke that hey, let me know how the New Year's is so I can run backwards around the world if it sucks. but like there's these people from just like you know it might be wake up time for me, but it might be the middle of the afternoon for
Yeah.
them. And it's just like, that's such a crazy concept because we're stuck in our own perspective and we can't see from anyone else's perspective. We can like imagine it, I guess, but and
It's very
it's something.
hard. It's very
Yeah,
hard to do, but I feel you there because that's exactly like I try to figure that stuff out, and I like your brain just cannot comprehend that at
right.
all. And I know you stream. You said like 1 to 5 p.m. So EST. That's a perfect time really for Europe. I generally
Yeah,
stream Sunday mornings. Nobody wants to wake up EST Sunday morning, so it's very rare. I have a few American people who stop in, but for the most part, it's I have a lot of Germans, a lot of Australians, a lot of people over in like Japan or Korea, like people that who knows, but it's the perfect time for them to stop in and watch something because it's not 7:30 in the morning.
right. And it's everyone has their different walk of life, and everyone's in a different circumstance. And for me, this is just 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's my opportune time.
Hmm.
Uh, my brother plays Rocket League, so I was trying to stream at 7 to 11, and that would have been better for like my EST friends, but because of the circumstances of him playing Rocket League and me streaming at the same time ruins his experience in Rocket League.
Hmm.
Uh, because of that, I had to change my time, and I am so glad that I did because I have met some really cool people in that time zone. Uh,
When you start to stream, that is a big thing. Like you think about like, oh, 7 p.m. and that's when a lot of the big Star Wars Galaxy Hero streamers stream their GACs is like 6 to like 9 p.m. and you go, oh, if I'm not in that time slot, nobody's gonna see me. But you forget that there are other time slots, and there are other audiences, and there are people that don't get to experience that kind of live vibe with somebody because they're sleeping or they're in school or they're there at work. And that's kind of what you're seeing and experiencing with that earlier time slot. You might not get like that peak EST hundreds of people, but you get a lot of like really cool people that you can connect with and interact with.
yeah, and often I notice when I'm like going into my stream settings and setting everything up, and I'll look at, oh, how many people are watching the game right now? Oh, two. This is going to be interesting whether or not I'm going to get anybody, but like I I have found some really really cool people that like to watch me, and I don't always understand why because I have a lot of negative self-talk in my head. Uh but you know, I guess a lot of them just want to hear this positive message that I'm trying to spread, and it's kind of a situation where I have all this negative stuff in my head. I don't want people to feel that way.
Yeah.
I want people to feel a positive experience and feel that hope because I know what it's like to not.
So that's
Um,
actually a really perfect segue, and I know we talked about this a little bit on Discord. Is one of the things that I noticed going into your Twitch is your game, your stuff. It's not tagged as like Star Wars Galaxy Hero. It's not tagged as like free to play. It's not tagged as like roster reviews. The stuff that all of us use. It's tagged as anxiety. It's tagged as depression. It's tagged as all of these things that are seemingly negative. And I know we kind of talked about taking away the stigma of those things. So I want to kind of give you an opportunity to, if whatever you want to open up about or what's going on in your head or how that's like as a streamer, I want to give you the floor
yeah.
there.
So honestly, like my streaming day starts with me wrestling with my anxiety on whether or not I can press that start streaming button.
Mm-hmm.
That is the first challenge, major challenge of my day. Um, that is like, a lot of people just are like, oh, it's time to go live. I can press this button.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, this is opening up. This is, I am in my safe zone right now, and I'm about to open it up to whatever people come in and decide to talk to me. And luckily, it's been a very positive experience so far. I have had a couple of people come in where it was just like, oh, I'm going to say something that's, you know, toxic or something. And
Mm.
I'm just like, not a great way to introduce yourself. I'm going to time you out. Try to be better when you come back.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they don't come back, which, I'm kind of okay with.
Those kinds of
But
people, they're here, like they're bouncing between channel, just being an asshole. They're being trolls, is really what it is. And that's something that you have to kind of bounce off and deflect and say it's not a reflection on me. It is. It's a reflection on them and who they are as a person. And they might not even be a bad person. They're just having a bad day, or they just
yeah,
don't realize how the things they're saying to empower themselves are negatively affecting other people.
yeah, there's a big problem with internet anonymity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with you're you're an invisible face that is just able to say whatever you want to say without repercussion on the internet a lot of times.
Yes.
Um, and I think people lose that sense of, I can see this person's emotions, I can see what it's doing to hurt them, and they're just lashing out.
Yeah.
Um, in a sense, I do understand what what it means to be going through something that makes you want to lash out.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I had a lot of anger issues. I luckily didn't get any major trouble, but I was prone to anger, and uh, I lashed out at people around me, and I saw how much it hurt them, and it made me want to change who I was. But on the internet, you don't necessarily see the repercussions of that. You don't see the next day when somebody's face is like scared of you, or is like sad that you're behaving the way that you are. You get to just type it out and let it loose, and then you just kind of don't necessarily get to see that repercussion that makes you say, oh wait, I need to be better as a person because I don't want to make people feel like this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually so the reason that I started this, and it is the reason that I started just streaming in general, is I was on Reddit. I'm still on Reddit. I'm primarily text based. I break down things. It just works out better in text. And what I was finding was happening was I am a very dry, sarcastic person. And when people talk to me in real life, they understand that I'm joking with them and that I'm not being mean. But in text, you don't get that at all. And what I was finding was happening is a lot of people were like, "Wow, Egnards is he's a dick, like he's being an asshole, like he's this really mean, angry person." And I kept saying to people, "Oh no, like I wasn't outwardly saying anything mean about you. I was making a pop culture thing and joking, but now I understand why you were having that problem with what I was saying." So we started this twofold. One, so that people who wanted to could see that one, I try to be the best version of myself as I can, and I'm not perfect. I screw up all the time. But two, it has been a self-reflection of me. Even when I am typing out Reddit posts now, I'll type out this big log thing, and it'll be, oh, is that line necessary? Do I need to put that there? Does that I understand it's a joke to me, but is that person on the other side going to realize that's a joke? And that's been a big part of this, as well as kind of communicating with other people and seeing like, hey, we're all living our own experience, and we all have challenges in our lives. Whether it is anxiety and depression, whether it is, losing a loved one, whether it is just having tons of people relying on you. We all have these struggles that are invisible when you're just an avatar in a game, talking to other people.
Yeah, I honestly, like, when I was in my 20s trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, I one of the things that I thought about was, you know, I was playing a MOBA at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and
League?
people would, nope, Smite.
So, okay, I've never played Smite, but I have played a few of them. League, Heroes, and Heroes of New Earth. But I
Okay.
haven't played Smite. Just
All
a
right.
quick aside,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for derailing you.
No, it's all good. Like I said, I'm pretty ADHD, so
Mm-hmm.
going all over the place. But uh, so people were, I'd have a bad game, and people would start saying just these nasty things to me, and it's just like, what if I went to some of these conventions as just like an advocate of these of people with mental illnesses,
Mm-hmm.
letting people know that there is someone else out there that you're saying these things to that might, if you call them a nasty word, that might actually be like something that pop culture has described them as.
Mm-hmm.
And words can hurt a lot more than people seem to understand. Um,
It also could
like,
just be that one straw, right? Like even if
yeah,
it's seemingly small or mild, there can be so many things piled up that just that one little extra straw hits that and everything comes crashing down.
yeah. And for a lot of people, it's, you know, people can bear different weights.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that, you know, have their full-time job, have their gaming time, have their families, have everything that, all this responsibility, and they're doing great with it. And there are people that, sit in their mother's basement playing video games, and that's all they can handle.
Yeah.
And, people say nasty things about, people in that circumstance. Like, honestly, I'm in my mom's basement right now. I'm playing video games. I'm trying to do my best to contribute,
Mm-hmm.
but with anxiety and depression, there's a limit to what I can do.
Yeah.
I'm trying every day to push it myself and push to try to be a better person. But something I've talked a lot with in therapy, which, a lot of people are like, I don't want to tell anybody I'm in therapy, but one of the things that I've talked a lot about in therapy is the fact that it's okay to be where you are in life.
Yeah.
As long as you're trying to get better, and maybe getting better actually looks like you're regressing, but you're regressing slower than you would be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everyone's at a different point in their life, in their journey, in their struggles, and I think personally, we need to build each other up and understand that people are in a different spot to make the world a better place. You know, um,
I think
so
for me, and this, I think everybody has a different thought that's going to help them. I think for me, the thought that kind of freed me from the burden of looking at my friends who maybe are further along in their careers, or have kids and a family, and they're living like this great life. I'm like, wait, why am I not there yet? And it's okay not to agree with me, and it's okay to have a completely opposite opinion. But the thing that worked for me was I kind of realized that nothing that I do matters. And that to some people is a very negative thought. You know, why do I have to do anything because nothing matters? For me, it was a very positive thought because it freed me from feeling like I had to keep up to everybody else. For me and for my in my head, it's there's when I'm gone, you know, the world will go on. The next generation will be there. The next generation after that will be there. There's nothing major that I'm going to do in my life that is going to affect the world 1,000 years from now. And there are people that do. There are very, very influential people. I don't expect to be one of them. I'm not trying to be one of them. Thinking like that has allowed me to say, you know what? It's okay if I want to play video games all day. It's okay if I want to, you know, go to the movies every weekend and waste my time. It's okay if I want to, you know, travel across the country instead of contributing to my 401k, because it doesn't matter. It's not affecting the greater scheme. And I know that some people might feel that in a negative light and be like, well, if nothing matters, why do anything? But to me, the importance of our life is to live your life, right? Like that's your one job, is to live it the way that fulfills you personally in the way that is best for you.
Yeah, I think if we think about it in game terms, it's a lot like the efficiency versus passion project,
Yeah.
where and I know you're a big efficiency guy, but like, you know, there is an aspect of, there are people out there that are being really efficient with their lives, and they're going to make a big impact on climate change and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that. And there are people that are, you know, they're not there to do those sort of things. They're there to, you know, be a positive impact on the area that they're in. Like, you know, I could go upstairs and be rude to my mom or be mean to my brothers, or I can choose to, you know, do what I can with what I have and, you know, say the nice things, be the positive impact that I want to be. And I fully expect I'm never going to get to that point where I'm like, you know, how do I say this? I'm never gonna get to the point where I'm like influencing millions of people, and I'm fine with that,
Yeah.
because honestly, that would be too much responsibility for me. Uh, you know, there's definite responsibility in stuff like content creation, and you know, there's definite responsibility in stuff like raising a family, and there's responsibility in, you know, for me taking care of Terrence.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
And
Making sure he has his best life.
even just having a positive responsibility, you know, not to sound nihilistic with my original thought, but even just having a positive influence on 4 or 5 people, those people, because of your positive influence, may make a greater change than they originally were going to. You know, there could be somebody that pops into your chat who is just, they're at their breaking point. And you're the person, just by saying, hey, how are you, that takes a little weight off of them. And by taking that weight off of them, it will allow them, you know, to continue on. And they might make a positive or a major change. So I do like the way that you're looking at this, like even making small positive impacts on people can have a really big impact overall. And you might never know. You know,
Hmm.
20 years from now, somebody might completely solve climate change. And that could have been somebody that was chatting with you one day and was having a bad day. And just by saying, hey man, I haven't seen you in a while, I'm glad to see you here, you didn't spark climate change, but you sparked them to continue.
Yeah. I think that's an important thing to realize, that there is a responsibility on all of us to build each other up.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we have a choice every single day of, do I want to be, do I want to succumb to uh the negativity, um and there are days when I do, like,
Of
full
course.
full honesty, I just am having a bad day. I can't do anything positive. I usually just take those days. I sit in my chair, I watch 30 Rock or whatever show that I've watched a million times, and I just, like, let that day pass.
We
But
all have those days. Yeah.
yeah, but anytime that I can, I want to be a positive impact on anyone that talks to me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I was watching some of the Tales off the Holotables. I watched the one with Pika Burrito, I think,
Hmm.
where he said something about, uh, you leave your campsite better than when you came into when you came to it.
Hmm.
And I think that's just like one of the biggest things in the world, is that if everyone is leaving each other with a little bit better than when they started, I think it would be a huge impact on the world.
Yes.
And that starts with each individual.
And to kind of full circle that a little bit, you know, when we were talking off camera and on Discord, you were telling me that you don't want to shy away from these issues, and these are things, and you kind of mentioned that with being in therapy, and other people sometimes are like, oh, I don't really want to say that I'm in therapy. I agree with you fully. I am not in therapy. I should be. And I tell people that. Like, I definitely 100% should be. And eventually I'll have the time to do that for myself. Not because I don't want to, because I need to find that time and prioritize it. But the point is, I also am somebody who wants to destigmatize anything. I'm very open about the things I say on chat. I'm very open with the things that I say to coworkers, and I will often get like, "Oh, did you really just say that? That seems private." No, like it's like why should I have to hide this part of me? You know, why do I have to pretend that I'm having a good day all of the time? It is okay, and I've done this before when people message me and just say, "Hey, man, listen, I'll answer this tomorrow. I'm just having a really shitty day right now. And I just cannot be on Discord. You know, I'm having a really negative experience right now. This happened. I don't need you to solve it for me. I just need you to give me 12 hours to sit on the couch and do absolutely nothing for the next 12 hours. And that is completely and 100% fine. And people do need to get better at recognizing that in themselves and just being comfortable and okay sharing that and saying it's fine. This is going on. Even if you don't share every detail, you don't have to share every detail with people. But just recognizing in yourself, I need this time. I need to do this. I need to prioritize me. You're not the problem. I don't want to lash out at you.
Hmm. Yeah, and there is this huge stigma around mental health, and there needs to not be, because everyone is dealing with it in some way. But some people are just, some people can handle some of that stuff, and some people can't. And sometimes they're handling it and then they can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you know, when I was working a few years ago, when I was in a little bit better of a headspace, but kind of struggling at the same time, I had one day where I just called my boss and I was just like, I'm not having a day where I can come into work today. And I told my mom that I said that, and she was just immediately like, "Oh no, like what have you done?" And it's just like, I think we need to break down that stigma of,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's okay not to be okay.
Yes.
Like, so much of our world revolves around like being at your peak efficiency and uh, doing all the things that you need to do because you have to do them. And people need to just slow down and realize, hey, not only do I impact the people around me, but I impact me, and I need
Mm-hmm.
to take care of me. Um, so I think, honestly, I just think the world would be a much better place if we stopped and looked at each other and realized we're all people with different struggles, and you know, some people hide those struggles, but I think if we're more open about them, it's gonna be better for everyone.
100%.
Um, you know, I've had I've had someone come in my chat and say my friend's having this awful day, and like, you know, for me, I personally just want to let people know that if you're having a hard time, like, I'm willing to listen,
Mm-hmm.
and there are people around you that are willing to listen. And the most important thing is that you don't do anything drastic, and that you realize there are people around you that care about you.
Yes.
And I
100%.
know it's kind of an ADHD way of getting to this, but uh, like I have struggled deeply with mental health, and there have been times where I thought the world would be better off without me, and I'm so glad that I didn't do anything, because I do think everyone can have a positive impact on the world, even if it's just in your immediate circle. Um, that can domino into bigger things, and you don't even know about it, and you won't know about it. So, you know, when people are having those thoughts, I don't want to get too much into too much triggering stuff, but you know, I just want everyone to understand that there are people out there that care about you and that want you to be okay.
Yes.
And at the same time, it's okay to not be okay at that moment, but if you can push through this moment, you can get to this next moment where you can be a positive impact. You just have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You have to make sure you're taking care of trying to be just as I'm going to bring it back to Star Wars 5e for a second. My campaign is set just after the events of the sixth episode of Star Wars, but in my own version. And
Okay.
in this version, Luke's Jedi Creed has changed from the old Jedi Creed to let's be a positive impact on the universe. And there are people with a lot of responsibility in that need to be big time positive impacts on the universe. But as long as you're being a positive impact on the universe in your immediate circle or in the circle after that, that's what's important.
Yeah.
It's not You don't have to be the world changing person. Just change that one person that you do interact with for the better.
And the more people that do that, uh, the more the world will, the world will change, because each one of those is a ripple effect, of other people around you being nicer or friendlier or more positive to other people around them, and it kind of spirals and dominoes out and ripples out, and those small changes can be a really 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 big important thing. The one thing that I will say, because just like you, I have people that do reach out to me, and I have offered, hey, if you're just having a bad day, reach out to me, and I will listen. Is if not you as in you, but you as anybody who is listening out there to this, um, listen with the idea of listening, not listen with the idea of solving. If my wife comes to me up with a problem, if somebody on Discord comes to me with a problem, one of the first things that I'll say is, do you need, solution oriented me? Is this a, hey, I want your advice? Or is this, I just want to vent with you? Because I'll vent with you or I'll help you solve the problem. Just tell me which ear that you need right now, and that's the ear that I'm going to be.
Yeah, and that's a super positive way to go about it, because there are times when you do need solutions, but there are also times where you just need to be able to say, this sucks.
Yeah.
There are times when it's not about fixing the problem, it's about just being able to be like, there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe someone's not at the point where they can make those changes that can fix the problem. Maybe the problem's going to be there, whether or not, you know, I have the long term version of depression.
Yeah.
I'm going to deal with it for the rest of my life. It was a horrifying realization, but at the same time, very comforting to know that, you know, not necessarily comforting, but more just important to understand that I'm going to be dealing with this for the rest of my life. And the important thing is that I take care of me, because I need to make sure that I'm in a position that I can be the the person that I want to be.
Yes.
And if I push myself too hard, I'm going to crumple, and then it's just going to be a negative. But if I push myself the right amount, do what I can with what I have, I can be the positive impact on the group around me. It starts with my brothers, my sister, my niece, my mom. That's the people that I'm around the most. And I'm going to be the positive impact on them. And then they can be a positive impact on the people that they interact with. And it's just going to, if we can all just be a positive impact on each other, it's going to be a better time, I think.
Yeah, it's like if you've ever been on a flight, for anyone who's been on a plane, not that we want to think about planes crashing, but they'll always tell you like when the oxygen comes down, do yours before you do your kids, before you do anyone else's, because if you pass out, you can't help the people around you. You have to take care of yourself first, or the people who rely on you are screwed anyway.
Mhm.
And that's gonna kind of signal out with mental health as well, and really anything that you're doing in the world. To kind of circle back to the game, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I also promised my wife that I would spend the day with her, because it is New Year's.
Yeah.
From a game perspective, so that I can write this off on my taxes. Just kidding, I don't. I make 30 cents from this, so there's no reason to do that. Um, you're in the process of unlocking SLKR. You have a 3 point some odd million account. You've been playing for about 6 months. You've bought the Smuggler bundle, the BB-8 bundle. Do you have not a long term plan, but do you have like a roadmap to your next like 3 to 6 months where you're like, you know what, I want to accomplish these things?
Yeah, so before I was going for SLKR, I was going for Java as my
Okay.
first GL. And then the Lightspeed bundles happened, and it just
And you're
kind of,
just so close.
yep, yep. So it was just like, I need to pivot because, I kind of have to.
Yeah.
But, once I get SLKR up and running, because that's going to take some time because I was not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm gonna pivot back to working on Executor and Java so that I can have my defense GL and my defense ship, and hopefully climb a couple of ranks so that I can get more crystals so that I can build up more. And then also with Java, I'll be building up my mod inventory with Smuggler's Run 2.
You're watching the
Yeah,
good stuff then, because you know exactly where to go.
yeah.
It's like Jabba is your fleet shard, and then I would also suggest JML just because of conquest. But you know, it sounds like you are in a place where you do have an idea, um, and even though you're being thrown all of these other things because of the Lightspeed bundles, you have a path, and so that's good.
Yeah. And
What
I
I
have awesome people in my community who have been very supportive and helpful, and like when I'm like misspending energy or something, they're like, "Hey, try doing this instead." And it's like,
mhm.
"Oh, this works a lot better." So I'm very thankful for the people in my community who know a lot more than me. So,
So
uh,
what I want to kind of end on here is the beginning. This kind of is what I said in the beginning. I don't know who's going to be watching this. You know, I know that there'll be people in the early game. I know that there'll be people. A lot of people I talk to are in the late game. For people in the early game who maybe watch some of my stuff, I want to urge you to check out Terrence Kebelac. Sorry, see what I did there. I want
yeah.
to urge you to check out Kebelac because again, people like myself, like Scribe, like Bit Dynasty, some of us have free to play accounts or have new accounts, but we're always approaching it from the end game player experience, someone who has all the knowledge. Watching someone figure out and navigate that who's in the same position as you can be extremely valuable. For people who are in the late game who maybe aren't going to learn new things watching you, I still want to urge them to check out your streams because, again, it's just when my wife says, hey, I want to go to bed early, I just want to take a nap, I want to do this, one of the first things I do is go on Twitch to see if you're streaming. Because I can be playing my game, I can be doing work, I can be doing something else, and you have this positive force where it rubs off on you as a person to be able to chat in that environment that's, I don't want to say always happy, but it just has that positive energy to it. So I will leave your stuff as well in the description, and anyone who's seeing this through Discord, his Twitch information will be there as well. Give him a follow, check him out, give him a chance. If I'm watching him and I don't watch anything, that says something. I want to leave you with the last words, though.
I want to leave everyone with one important thing that I always say to my community: be good to each other.
I love it because
That's how I like to sign off: is be good to each other. I'll see you later.
it's like Bill and Ted. Be excellent to each other. I love it.
Hmm.
Peace out, everybody.